Yes, people, another Wednesday evening man them chat in the building. Tonight, we've got another special guest in the house, local community stalwart with a vast knowledge in and expertise in finance, property investment, sports, scouting, event promoter, all round good guy in the community. We've got Selwyn Jean-Baptiste in the house. Well done, Selwyn. Welcome, man them chat. How are you, brother?
Thank
You.
you, Mark. I'm glad to be part of your community program,
Nice, man.
knowing that you're
Welcome,
from
brother.
a big family of community workers in Big Brothers, Silborne, Harvey. We used to play football together. So, you know, you've got
Yes.
community in the blood, and you're taking it to another level, reaching out to the people
Not
on
just me,
Zoom and
brother. Not just me. Not just me. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so give us a little background story, growing up in Luton or before Luton, childhood, parents, siblings, all that sort of thing. Give us a little bit of insight.
Born in South London, Dulwich, South London.
Mm.
Um,
It's a nice
Father
part of
from,
London.
sorry?
Nice part of London.
Well, they say it was.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. It's an expensive part.
Mm.
Yeah,
It makes Old Bedford Road in Luton look like a council estate. Prices down there,
yeah.
but no disrespect to the people on Old Bedford Road. In case
Mm.
they start ringing up saying, "Oh, you're putting down the price of our houses."
Uh,
But yeah, father from Saint Lucia, mother from Dominica, and myself and my brother Gary are both born in London. And then with Vauxhall car plant moving up to Luton, expanding the plant, a lot of London people moved up to Luton, and that was the influx of the people of the Caribbean, the Irish, the Italians, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Polish, all came to Luton back in the 60s. So lucky enough that moving to Luton, new schools were being built, the community was expanding, and I ended up at Sacred Heart Junior School in Stopsley. From there, I went to Cardinal Newman, another new school. And then from there, I actually attended Luton Sixth Form College, Technical College at Park Street, because I had an apprenticeship at Vauxhall, so I was doing day release there, understanding the academic side of engineering and vehicle mechanics. Finished that when I was 17, no, I was 21, and my uncle called me to go to the States, and he was looking for his son to come over, and he asked his son, Ray Richardson, to come over as well because the family had split up. He'd moved to America and the family had stayed in Luton. So myself and Richie went out there, and the rest, as they say, is history. We both got scouted to play football for Howard University, unknown to us, a premier African Caribbean university in the States. And I lived out there for about 5 years. Then I came back because of the loss of my younger brother, Colton, drug overdose, found on the streets of Luton. And although I was only away 5 years, Mum and Dad looked like they gained about 25 years in the time I was away. I just chose to stay. From that, Dad wanted to retire, Mum wanted to retire, so I went into, I was working at Vauxhall's. The advice they got as regards to retiring didn't work out. I was told by my mother, get it sorted, because the person who advised the family didn't give the right advice. And my dad got cancer. He passed away without any life insurance. I, being the oldest of the four children here in the UK, had to find a solution with my mother. So I went and done some research. And because my background's engineering, you find out with a car what's the matter, and you find a solution. So I'd done the same thing with finance. The guy who took me under his wing gave me some guidance, helped me along, was my mentor. Is a good man.
Sorry, did you
And
say
here I
sorry?
am now.
Sorry, did you say his name? Because we didn't hear that. I think you cut out.
Michael Palmer.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, local guy. Works in the church. With another community man, and looks after a lot of people in the community. And here I am now, 30 years later. I'm still in property, earning a little bit of a living off it because with interest rates so high, everybody's shouting and screaming. But I've also spread myself into helping young boys and girls with the football, and I volunteer with the Luton Flying Start charity, which is a charity that's Luton Council run. Sharon Hill, Ricky Hill's wife, she asked me to come on board as a volunteer because being a father and a grandfather,
Big
I'm
up,
now in
cousin.
a
Big
better
up, cousin.
position. Sorry?
No, I'm just saying, big up Sharon, innit?
Yeah, big up Sharon.
Our
Sharon
cousin,
Hill.
looking her, big up the family, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And Sharon's asked me to come on board and work with the young fathers. And nothing's changed, guys. You know, me being a father some 30 plus years ago, nothing's changed with the young ladies out there. Just now that they've got false eyelashes, false nails, and they've got a mobile phone. So that gives them a little bit more power. But the same headaches we had when we were growing up with the ladies, all that's happened, it's brought on with from a new dimension with the mobile phone, the computer, and social media. I'm glad to be here today, share my knowledge, share my stories, share my journey, and also to help our young men in the community find themselves.
So you didn't go to the stereotypical school then, like the Beach Hills and the Lee Manor and the Halliard.
No,
You
no, I
went to
didn't.
you went to Cardinal
Sacred
Newman.
Art,
What was that
Sacred
like?
Art and Cardinal Newman.
Yeah, was there any black kids in Cardinal Newman at the time, or were you kind of
Catholic
like
school,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah?
yeah.
What was that like?
Well, we'll start at primary school.
Yeah.
There was Paul Webb's mum, Mary Prosper. There was my brother Gary, my sister Myrtle, Colton deceased, myself. We were and Dean Blackett. And
Okay.
in the secondary school, all of us went to the secondary school, and again, we were joined by Veronica Gustav, her brother. I forget his name for the moment, and guy by the name of he was also a Stevenson, Aloysius Stevenson. I don't think he was related to you.
Oh no.
And I
Aloysius.
think they came up from London, to my knowledge, but I'm not 100% sure. Veronica Gustav, I know because we're still friends on Facebook, and Veronica now lives in Denmark, but we talk regular, maybe once or twice a month. So yeah, it was a baptism, but I was lucky coming from Sacred Heart. A lot of people knew me. I had a lot of respect because I was playing football for the older guys. A lot of the older guys knew me, and I was okay. But with being in the school within 2 or 3 days, I got picked on by a young man who remained nameless because he's just recently lost a brother, and it was a shame. But he wanted to fight me. I tried to walk away. It kicked off, and he ended up strangling me and getting pulled off by one of the teachers. So that was the only baptism I had at the school. After that, they were up.
Selwyn,
Yeah,
was that John Ashton?
You're the
no,
man say
no,
okay. I'm gonna
I
say you're
can't
the
name
man
the
say you
brother,
don't want to
but
mention.
it
Okay,
wasn't John
okay.
Ashton. No,
Oh man,
yeah,
he's not steady enough boy. Bro. He was another black man though. Selwyn,
no,
yeah?
no, it was an Irish fella.
Okay,
Um,
okay, let's get
Okay,
that straight
okay,
then.
good, good,
okay.
good Catholic school Irish fella, but I got
Yeah.
to respect him because he's recently lost a brother. So
So you and him are
you
friends
know what they
now.
say. Yeah,
Yeah,
Funny
that's certainly what
enough, when
happened.
Luton got to Wembley, and they beat Arsenal in the Littlewoods Cup, he couldn't sell his tickets, so he gave them to me. So God works in mysterious ways. I ended up selling the tickets and pocketing the money.
Okay.
Hello, Bob.
Well, go
Mr.
on,
Baker.
Sam. Yes, bro. Respect.
How are you?
Respect every. I'm good, man. I'm good. Man, them
Good,
chat.
man.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
Cool, man.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah. So then,
Yeah.
you left school, so when you went college and that, you know.
Yeah.
And then you
I was at it was a technical college. I got into Vauxhall, so I was doing a mechanical engineering apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And
What
doing
was
that
Vauxhall like
apprenticeship,
in those days?
man, it was busy. Every floor you went on, you saw somebody that looked like you, somebody that was friend or friends of family and what have you, because when my parents moved up here in the 60s, my mum had what I call a Coronation Street house. You know, the front door comes straight out on the pavement.
Yeah.
And the only thing that came through the front door was the post, because what happened, my brother and I slept in the front room with mum and dad, and the 3 rooms upstairs were rented out. And we had the dining room at the back, the kitchen and bathroom. So it was part of the reason, I guess, I know so many people, because my dad and my mother had done their bit for housing a lot of people in the community.
Yeah.
So it was, they call it now a HMO, a house in multiple occupation. But back then it was like, we had Mr. Miller from Jamaica. We had Mr. Clifford from St. Lucia, both in separate rooms. We had Mr. and Mrs. Wells in the front room. They were also from St. Lucia. Then we were joined by a lady, Mr. Miller's wife, lady by Mrs. Miller. And then there was a room that housed three gentlemen in the back. And so we had, if you work it out, we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had 9 adults and 2 kids in a 3-bedroom house.
How did the toilet situation work there, bro?
I wasn't aware that there was a situation. You had the old pail, remember?
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
time. People had the pail, in their room. And and Dettol and bleach used to be used regular. So
Dettol to run the place.
So so people would use the pail and then just go and put it in the toilet when the toilet was empty.
Selwyn, can I ask? You know, did you have a back toilet, the old Burlington, when you go around the back?
No, we had
Like
2
a shed,
toilets.
one of those
we had
ones.
one we had one outside and we had one inside with the bathroom.
Because
So
next to the toilet, them days, you had the shed where the coal used to come in it.
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
ours was more of a modern house, because the land got developed at the back of us. There was a factory in our back garden. So we had maybe about a 70, 80 foot back garden.
What area
And
in
then it was fenced off. Sorry?
What road was that, sir?
Wenlock Street, off Hightown. Where St. Matthew's School is now.
That's the school I went to.
Okay.
Yeah. So St. Matthew's School now is on the land that my parents, part of Wenlock Street is there. So if you go up Hightown and you turn left onto Wellington Street, onto Havelock Road, there's a Chinese on the corner. That was there when I was small as well.
Yeah, near the doctor's surgery.
Yeah.
You go down to the doctor's surgeries on your left, which is getting closed now. Yeah.
Are they closing it down?
They're closing it down.
Okay.
For whatever reasons. I
Used to
was
be my
told, but
surgery.
yeah. It used to be on Wenlock. It used to be on Hightown Road, the doctor's surgery.
That's my manor, Selwyn. Peking House, it's still there.
Yeah.
And it looks like he hasn't had a clean up right since he was there in the 60s.
Really? Wow.
That shop there's tread black on the corner. You know.
The chow main's all right though. The chow main's all right. I must admit.
All right.
Anyway, so go on.
Yes, I've got memories of that area as well, North Street. You know, because I went to Charles Street and St. Matthews.
Charles Street Youth Club. Yeah.
You know, and one of my friends back, there was an Irish guy named Danny Boyle, and the Boyles were.
Yeah, I went to school with the Boyles.
Yeah,
David Boyle, John Boyle, Charlotte Boyle.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah. Back in the day, yeah. Well, they lost one of the younger brothers recently as well. So God bless his soul. But yeah, so it was a good area because just on the opposite corner to the Chinese, there was a pub, the Painter's Arms. It's still there now. And that's where I had my first pint when I was about 12.
12?
Yeah. We used to play football in the park. You know, Havelock Road,
Parker's
the big park.
Peace.
Yeah, so we used to play football in the park. And then afterwards,
Parker's Peace.
the older guys would go in the pub and they'll buy a pint, which was about 8-10p them days. And they'll come out with a pint and everybody would have a little swigger, you know? So, yeah. But the older guys looked after us as well, you know, and it didn't matter. There was Italian there, the Romanos, there were the Nappas from Scotland, there was Holmes from Ireland. Who else? Gange, English. Was Polish boy.
That stories and that. Were they there then?
Yeah. And we were just young boys who were guided by the older boys. There's James Phillip from Clarendon Road. His family was from St. Kitts. His older brother Baldwin and his sisters Jackie and I can't remember the name of the other sisters.
Because the Campbells round at Clarendon Road.
Clarendon Road.
That was 104 Old Bedford Road. So, you know,
right.
2 minutes away.
So there you go. Yeah. So, and the thing was, it was such a mix. Yeah, Polish, Italian, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, English, people from all the islands of the Caribbean. The Hunters, Albert and Bentley, lived on, not Frederick Street, Reginald Street. So
it's funny you say that because, sorry, 1 minute, Bob. It's funny you say that because when I used to go Hightown as a youth, them man they were together, regardless of color or creed. You know, they were together.
Color didn't matter. We didn't listen. The only color we wore was football. You know, put a ball there, we played. Yeah, and Ray Richardson lived up on the hill with his brother Michael Thomas and Thompson. So, yeah, big collection of boys.
There's a church in Reginald Street.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to that. I left Luton when I was 13 and went up north. I remember the church.
Yeah, it's still there now.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've never been in there. I've walked past there 1,000 times plus, and I've never been in there. I've just stood by the door and looked in, but I've never gone in there for any event or anything like that.
Well, I actually live on Reginald Street, and I've never been in there. So
right. Yeah, but I think I've got a few weeks ahead of you. You know.
Yeah,
I've been in it since I was 2. So.
But Mark, I thought you lived in the posh area, Argyle Avenue. Argyle Avenue was a posh area, man.
Hey,
it was, yeah,
Reginald
it was.
Street is a posh area.
It was. My dad's chest was high. Yeah, posh area. Couldn't afford it though. But you know, that's another story.
So anyway, you're not really a ghetto youth. Sorry.
Well,
no, that's a joke.
Steady, Bob. I thought there was a Mandem chat, not Mandem cuss.
Okay. I withdraw that one.
Anyway, Selwyn.
Selwyn. So, what year did you leave school, and how far did you go in education before you chose whatever career path you chose first and worked up to wherever?
I was one of the first years to leave school at 16. Had I been 6 days older, I would have left school at 15.
So
I left at 16.
After leaving school, did you go college or any
no,
like
before I left
schemes
school, before I'd left school, I'd already made an application. Back in those days, you could walk out of a job at 12 o'clock, and you could walk into another job at 12:15. That's how easy it was to get work. Yeah,
that's what my dad says.
Because Luton was very labor intensive.
Yeah.
So, for the summer when I left school that year, I managed to get a job at where the Debenhams is in the Arndale Centre when you come down from Market Hill.
Yeah.
On the right used to be the post office. Prior to that, it was various stores, but right when the Ardell Centre opened, it was a furnishing shop. So that was my first job. I worked there for about 3 weeks. And then because it was summer, I was burning up. A friend of mine was working, Ray Perkins, God bless him. Ray had a job delivering juice and soft drinks to the chip shops. So what happened was he got me a job, and I was actually the two of us working together, and a lorry driver. So we were delivering soft drinks in the summer, and that was ideal, you know, because we had plenty of.
What did you want to do? You know, when we're young or we're at school, we say, me, I wanted to be a fireman or an architect from I was young when I left school. What did you actually want to do when you left school?
Well, tell you the truth, Marvin, I wanted to be working construction. But when my father came to the UK, back in the days, there was no health and safety, and he didn't want me working on the building site because it didn't matter if it was rain, sun or shine, he was working out there. And they were giving it, and coming from the Caribbean, you can imagine, you've got here, it's November, December, and you're working on the building site, and you've just left the Caribbean with your shorts, and now you're wearing 10 layers of clothes and you're still cold. So he didn't want me working on the building site. So he said, do something else, but you're not working on the building site. So I'd already applied to Vauxhalls to do my apprenticeship, and it came through. So I started that on my 17th birthday. So yeah.
So how did you actually stumble into doing property then?
Long story short, as a mechanic, you learn to fix things. My father was ready to retire. He wanted, like a lot of our parents, wanted to go back to the Caribbean and see out their days in the sunshine and that. And my dad remortgaged, my mother and father remortgaged. I was a guarantor because I was working. I was the younger one, and the guy who done the mortgage for us didn't do any life insurance for mum or dad. So within a year of dad retiring, he had cancer, stomach cancer, and we had to bury dad and use up all mum's savings. But then the mortgage fell on me. So mum said, find a solution. She was rather upset, as you can imagine, because the life insurance policy wouldn't have been that much then, and it would have covered the mortgage. So I had to learn fast how to deal with property, deal with finance. So that's what I did. I found a solution, and here I am now.
What age are we talking about? How old you was?
I was 31, 32.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mentor, a guy by the name of Mike Palmer, I did say at the beginning, got me into it. And while I was working with him, job came up working with Abbey Life, and then I got headhunted from Abbey Life by Prudential, and from there I moved about a bit within the Prudential umbrella because it was one of the biggest employers in the finance industry back in the day.
I remember Prudential still. The advertisement on TV.
And Abbey Life. So how did you get to Abbey Life? So how did you get from Vauxhall and delivering soft drinks to Abbey Life then? That's
Vauxhall, I've done my apprenticeship. And then from Vauxhall apprenticeship, from my Vauxhall apprenticeship, Richie's father was in America and he wanted Richie to come over. And he said, and while you're coming over, have you got an English mechanic? And Richie said, yeah, Selwyn's just finished his apprenticeship at Vauxhall's. He says, well, give me his number. And he called me and he sweet-talked me to come into America with Richie.
Wow.
So I've gone out there with Richie, two of us. We landed on the Friday, walked around the garage, looked at some Jags, some TR6s, British and European sports cars. And then from there, he took us to church on the Saturday, being a Seventh-day Adventist. And that was a Saturday morning. And the Saturday afternoon, we went up the park, played football. Richie and I both got scouted to play football for the university, and I could still work for Richie's father. And from there, the Monday I was in Howard University in Washington, D.C., signing forms and got half a scholarship. So
So
to
did you
me,
have to go back to school then while you was there? Because that they
but
go
it was
for longer, don't they?
university. Yeah, it was university. It was. I was
Oh.
straight in first year, and I went in as a young man. I got a scholarship to play football together with Richie, but then at the same time, Ray got scouted and asked to come back to Europe, and he went to Holland and played football against the likes of Ruud Gullit and Rijkaard. So and Van Basten. Yeah. So that's how much of how quick things just turn around on a phone call.
Top man them still.
Yeah. So I was out there. I was out there enjoying myself. I was missing Richie and that for a couple of years, and then my youngest brother Carlton passed away, and I had to come back for the funeral, and I stayed. And that's how I got into the property, because while I was here, Dad wanted to retire, Mum wanted to retire, and the saga when Dad passed away, that I and my brother and sister had to sort out the house with Mum, and that was it. So that was the start of my property journey at 31, 32, and just rocked and rolled from there.
So what was your first movement in the property then? Was it dealing with your mum and dad's house?
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you do? Take it over? Or
yeah. What we
took on the mortgage
decided
or?
to do. Yeah, just.
Did you feel pressured being kind of given that responsibility, or because you was kind of not forced, but you had to kind of deal with that in it because it was because of what was going on with your dad. So was it a pressure for you to?
At that time, I didn't think of it as pressure. I just thought to myself, we've got to find a solution. And my sister, my younger sister and brother were too young to do that.
Yeah.
And my next brother to me, he also was too young. I was old enough, and my brother was in and out of work. So understanding the finance market now, it was a case of I had to prove income. I could do that. I needed an income to cover the mortgage. I could do that. And that's what we done.
Okay.
Found a solution, When you're around the right people and you trust, it was a case of if I didn't do it, Mum and Dad would have had to just sell the house, and who knows where we would have ended up. I wouldn't have had the experience.
Yeah.
So
by taking on the responsibility.
You ended up taking on the house.
Yeah. I had to, because I couldn't see my brother and sisters out on the road. Simple
Big
as
commitment
that.
at 31 still.
You know what? Sometimes you need to take life serious, and you say 31. To me, at 31, it was a case of having to do it. Yeah, go on, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the point I was going to make, because I got similarities with you in terms of being an apprentice. I went into engineering, and also at the same time, really, right, I went into like financial consultant. I know about Abbey Life Prudential and all that, selling the plan to somebody about a rainy day and all that kind of stuff. I worked on building site. So them days, really, right, you just have to do what you need to do. It's like there's nobody but you, so to speak. It's not really a pressure. It's just a way of life. So, because I think when I come back to Luton, I think it was about 23, and I did a lot of stuff.
Right.
I'm just saying, really, it was a different kind of emphasis them days. You just got to get on with it,
And I think we were lucky in that the community was tighter. It's not like now everybody sees rubbish on the phone and they believe it. And the guy that was acted as my mentor, his background was in banking for 15 plus years. And he was somebody that you could trust. And knowing what he'd done and knowing it for a time, he helped rescue us out of a situation. His family are known to me. Lawrence, his family to Lawrence and Des Palmer. So it was, I didn't feel the pressure. I just felt love around me and support. So when you turn around those days, I think as a community, it didn't matter where you was from. We all had each other's back. Today,
Sure.
I had a similar conversation with some of my footballers on Sunday, and they said, Selwyn, if you was dating a girl in that now, what would you do? And I says, look, women now got a lot more options than they had in our day. Women now got a greater status in life. When I think that my mother wanted to go to university, and they laughed at her. Her own mother and aunties laughed at her. And when she said she wanted to be a lawyer, they laughed even. They said you got a better chance of getting to the moon. You know, and in theory, that was the difference. Yeah. Today a woman could go on social media, find a boyfriend from anywhere. You know, so it's not just the local guys. If the lady wants to raise herself or wants somebody different, whatever, you guys got social media, which is positive in a lot of ways, but it's also negative. The eye-to-eye contact now isn't about. Yeah. And social media has taken away the ability for people to talk. And if you look at it, I can talk to anybody from a 5-year-old to a 105-year-old because I will find something in common. And I will find something to link us together. And it doesn't matter if you're English, Irish, Asian, African, American. I have got a story, but I've also got a backstory to me. But a lot of women, a lot of young men out there, they look at their phones and it's constant. They're walking the street and it's looking like this on the phone and not even watching where they're crossing the road. If something happened, they wouldn't know. It's a constant fashion show for women. Women are under pressure. So, to me, have fun, talk to people. Sometimes I've said it to girlfriends of mine. Just put the phone down and look and see what's going on around you. Understand, you know. Facebook is good to a point. Instagram, you've got Twitter and TikTok.
LinkedIn.
And then you've got Netflix and BBC, and you got about 100 channels to choose from. Back in our day, we only had 3. I remember when Channel 4 started, and they started using the
when
F
Channel
word.
4 came out.
Yeah. When Channel 4 came, people were like, what? You can swear on TV? And blah, blah, blah. The After 9
Watershed
rule came in. Yeah, watershed. That's the word. Thank you, Spencer. And you've got to say to yourself, wow, how things have changed now. Now you can put TV on, you can see naked men, naked women, dating websites and all kind of, not that I watch it, but I've seen it, just going to friends' houses and whatever. I was with a girlfriend the other day at her house and she's gone, look, what's going on here? And I looked and I says, oh, that's a dating website. How do you know? I goes, oh, it's old, that's old. But she was shocked, you know? She's a church woman. She was going, oh my God, she quickly changed that over and what have you. So, you know, it's people have got so many distractions out there. And you can get anything you want.
Was that at her house or your house?
Oh dear.
That she found the things on the channel.
That was at her house, yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, right.
She had the remote. I was watching Law and Order, and she just happened to flick it over.
I bet you was, mate. I bet you was,
I was
mate.
watching a church program at mine.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Law and Order fan and football. They're the 2 programs I like to watch.
So tell us a little bit more of some of the things you get up to, because you seem to do a lot of stuff. I know you do the promoting from time to time. We know you about property. You do a lot around sports. I'm not sure exactly what you do in the sports, but I know you're always around a lot of sports.
Yeah, elaborate a bit more on the sports. Let's see what.
Well, let me start with the promoting, because I've got man them around me that's into the music, and you guys are all on links now. But imagine you've got no links, right? Back in the 70s, you could go to the pub, or you can go to a disco where they're playing rock and roll music. And you've got two guys, both Calypsonians, my family being from St. Lucia, Dominica, and my best friend's family's from St. Kitts, Mr. Van Clark.
Mm.
Yes,
And
man.
I said to him, man, we need some of our own music. And he goes, you know, people sort it out. And I was like, okay. And because I used to do the door work back in the day, I had access to a lot of the nightclub managers and owners of the clubs. And we started with a Friday night at Pink Elephant. For those of you who can remember, those men, the man them of a certain age, and some of the women who would be out there listening. And there was Beachcomber, there was a California Ballroom, there was 61 Club in Inkerman Street.
Sons.
We had a lot of places, but the music wasn't a regular occurrence, because back then they were closing the halls. If you had something, a dance at the town hall was at 12 o'clock. Bob will confirm that. And depending on who was on the door at the Pink Elephant or the California Ballroom, could you get in or couldn't you? But the nice thing with the California Ballroom over Dunstable, they had a lot of artists from America. So you had the OJs and other soul acts, James Brown,
Four Tops and all that.
Four Tops.
Yeah,
yeah.
Those were the
and it was just great Saturday night entertainment, but that was like maybe once or twice a month. So I got talking to the owner of the Caesar's Palace Casino, and I said, look, we'd like to do something here. How much? And we'd done a deal with the guy on a handshake. And I said, we just want to do a little Friday night, little soul thing. And we'd
Is
have...
that the one not by the 24-hour Tesco, yeah?
That's the one across the road.
Yeah. Kimpot Road.
So we decided to do a Pink Elephant, and we'd print something like 200 leaflets, and we'd target the young ladies and say to them, if you have a birthday party, if you bring 3 or 4 girls, we'll give you a bottle of champagne, well, a bottle of bubbly. And that was our draw card. And then what we would do, we'd get a local DJ. So we had Gemini, we had Sovereign, Heartbeat, a lot of local 2-3-man band DJs that we'd bring in. And then we'll get somebody from out of town, would sort of go to Hitchin, Stevenage, St. Albans, High Wycombe, and we'll say to them, organize a coach, whatever you get for the coach is yours. All we want is the money on the door. And would give them a discount, so they had the incentive by selling the tickets for us, but also getting the coach full. And that's what we done. And by doing that as a promotion, we brought Omar Tolutin, Steve Walsh, you know, a guy called Lindsay Wesker on My Soul, DJ.
Yeah, I went to one of the first time I went Pink Elephant was to go and see Steve Walsh. Was that your promotion then, Selwyn?
Yeah. Well, we had Stevie Walsh.
Up till now, I don't even know how I even got in, because I must have only been about 14.
Yes, Orica.
Well,
very nice. He was a good DJ, Steve Walsh, wasn't he? He's very good.
Yeah, top man. So, and Omar and people like that, and people were like, wow. And then we used the bigger hall, and we brought a Pink Elephant, the stage where the casino part was, where they had the performing artists, and we brought My Time, Dutch, 3 ladies, Dutch singers. Who's the Run DMC? Brought them down.
You put Run DMC?
I remember back in the body popping days.
Yeah, Run DMC, they were big.
They were big.
And
I remember them.
Who was My Tai? That was them. And we just had fun.
Did he bring Africa Bambaataa down there?
I think we may well have.
Because I was dancing on stage at that time.
Yeah. Okay. And then there was
You remember that, Bob?
Background noise.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yes.
Oh, no, where's that coming from?
Perhaps.
Oh, it's Bob.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
and
Sorry.
what we should have done, we should have, looking back on it, we should have found a venue with a bar and everything and do a regular, because that's how they do it in London. They'll find a bar with a hall and it worked. But we never had any trouble. The trouble started when they started lending the hall out to other DJs and other people. And because the whole set was there, and all the DJs had to do is bring their crowd and bring their music, because there was twin decks, there were twin CD players. The system was set up. So it was just a case of come, play your music, take your money, go home, see you next month, you know? But some people came along, took advantage of their generosity, started nicking the stuff, and bam, one bad egg spoils it for all of us. And that's what happened. So, and at times, we always made sure people got paid. And I remember sitting with Van one night, we sat on the sofa at Charwood Road, and we had 12 quid after we'd paid everybody. 12 quid between two of us for like 3 weeks' work and all that. So at times it didn't pay, and other times it did. So they're the ups and the downs of the promotion game. And you guys are in music, so you know maybe better than me now where the margins are, you know. So yeah, I'm still doing it now. I've got a birthday party next month, the 16th. Make a note in your diary. I'll be 66. So it's gonna be an interesting night.
You don't look 66. Let me tell you that, Steve.
Well, a little Dettol, keep the skin clean, and you know.
Yes, sir. Yes,
a little cocoa butter. God's blessed me, you know. So thank you.
So how does the football thing go then? How does that go?
The football, funny enough, one of my music contacts, Scully,
Right.
Sean Griffiths, Crucial Robbie, Laurie Lyle. Yeah. All the guys from the Sunderland Park posse. We were Sean coaches goalkeepers, and he's a football agent. So he looks after one of my nephews, and I used to go and watch them train and what have you, and I'll be encouraging the boys that weren't technically as good or didn't have any belief in themselves. So saying, come on, you can do this, try a little bit harder, what have you. And Sean asked me to come on board. And I goes, well, I've got my coaching badges and stuff. I think they've expired, but have you? He says, oh, well, they're over 18, so don't have to worry about it. So I ended up joining with Scully and Robbie. And next thing we know, they decided to start Arsenal Fan TV because Robbie was doing it with the Arsenal boys down in London. And he had a big following. So we just put it out there. We were going to start a football team, and we had something like about 60 boys turn up. So had to go through the selection process, cut the squad down, and we were playing friendlies and we were beating everybody that come to us. I think we played something like about 30 games and we lost about 2. So we decided to join the league 2 years ago. Last year we came third, and
that's good.
It worked out quite good, yeah. And we got promoted, but it's a big commitment in that we're having to play down in Enfield, and whereby when I was playing football at 18, 25, it was £30 for the pitch and £10 for the referee. Well, now you're paying £1,000 for the pitch for the season, 1,200 quid, and the referees don't come out for less than 50, 60 quid. And when you've got boys that are not earning any money and we're having to fund it, it doesn't make good commercial sense. It's great. It's great for the community and keeping the boys off the street. But then when you're getting 9 and 10 players turning up on a Sunday morning, and we've been out on a Saturday night, enjoying our Saturday night, then on a Sunday morning you get there and there's only 9 or 10 boys, and I'm having to put the kit on at my age. they looked at me and thought I was crazy. I said, you can't give the opposition a psychological advantage. You know, it's a cup quarter final, and we've only got 9 men. I just put my kit on. I was ready to play. And just that as at 10:15, at 10:30, we had 3 players turn up, and I was stretched and ready to play. So I said, well, if anybody gets injured, I'll come on as the emergency player, you know, because it's roll on, roll off sub. So, yeah. So, yeah, so working with Scully and Robbie and them and Laurie, we get boys placed with clubs from step 4, step 5 up to Premiership.
So what's the club?
So-
What's the club called? What's the team?
It's AFTV, Arsenal Fan TV.
Oh, but isn't that Robbie when he does the
Yeah, that's Robbie, yeah, when he does the social media and what have
Yeah.
you. But we recruiting boys that have been released by clubs, because it's an opinion, you know. You see a player, and some people will say Ronaldo's the best, other people are going to say Messi's the best. You know, we've been blessed that over the last 20 years or so, we've been able to watch them. But who's the next best player coming through? You know, whose decision is it? And you've got to look at it and say, Alex Ferguson saw something in Ronaldo. He brought him to Old Trafford. He's a legend there. He left, he's come back. And then he spoke out about the club, about he's left, he's played at Inter Milan, he's played at Real Madrid, and he's come back to Old Trafford. And the kitchen hasn't changed, the changing rooms hasn't changed, nothing's changed. He says, and he speaks out about it, and they want to kick him out. And that's the power of the press. That's the power of social media now, you know? So I've been lucky enough that I've seen Ronaldo live. I've seen Zidane, seen Beckham.
Zidane was a great player still.
Oh, great player. 2-footed. Not much to him, but he's strong. And technically, you're not just born with that. You're born with a mindset to get that.
Yeah.
And that's where we try and help the boys, because
what ages do you do with the boys?
16s to 23s. Yeah. So we've got boys that have been released by Chelsea, by Tottenham, by Arsenal, by Luton, and other league clubs. And all we do is have them playing for us. And then when Sean's with the club, because he coaches the goalkeeper, so he's talking to maybe 90 of the 92 Football League clubs, and he's got connections with the recruitment managers at the clubs, and they'll say to him, well, you've got a goalkeeper, we're looking for a centre half, or we're looking for a striker. So we've got a boy playing in Albania now. He got released by Barcelona, and he was playing for us. So that's how fickle football is. It's about opinions, and our job is just to let people know that is one coach's opinion, that you're not good enough for that club. But all you do, you take a different route. You go to another club. You start lower and work your way up. Look at Kante, 5'6", about 5 stone when he's wet with his kit on, and he's gone to Saudi Arabia now after a little spell. He's gone from Leicester to Chelsea, European Cup winner, and now he's gone to Saudi Arabia. So
yeah, that fosters confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, and if you look at him, he drives a Mini, and people look at him and think, well, he ain't big enough to be playing football. He's a very humble man. So it helps that, you know, the dominoes fall in your favor, and you get pointed in the right direction, and you're in the right place at the right time.
Okay, anybody else have a question for Selwyn?
Quick one. So we're still on the football. You're very close to Ricky. Ricky was a special guest on there. He's actually our highest viewing speaker on Man Them Chat.
Okay. So I must be the lowest then.
He's got like 200 odd views.
We'll let you know in a few weeks. How did you get from with
How
Ricky?
did I?
How did you get to know? I know you and Ricky are quite tight and stuff, you know. So just wanted to see about the connection there.
Well, going back to the old days, Ricky came up to Luton, and I remember watching him training and playing for Luton and training and what have you. when you could go down the training ground and there was no security and stuff. And I just swapped numbers with him. I said, well, look, you know, you're in Luton. If you need to get around or anything going on, give me a shout. And it wasn't mobile phones those days. This was the house phone. So a few of the people had seen him play his debut for Luton and what have you. And I watched Luton for about 10 years. I think in the 10 years, I think I missed about 5 or 6 games, home and away, because Ricky was there, Mitchell Thomas, Emeka Nyajobi, Ray Daniel, Brian Steen, Mark Steen. So it was like after the game on a Saturday evening, we would drive into London and go and party or find something in Luton and party. And that's how we became friends. And the early days, Ricky couldn't drive, so I didn't mind driving him around where he had to get to until he got his car and passed his test. And we've been friends ever since. A lot of local guys in the local football, they wanted the Luton guys to come and take a picture with the teams at the end of the season presentation. So a few people asked me. I asked Ricky, I asked Brian, Mick Hartford, Mark, Emeka, Mitchell, and they were always willing to go and just be part of the Luton community. So it was a no-brainer, really, and our friendship's fostered ever since. I'm godfather to his son, who played for me and played with football with my son when I was managing the 61 club. And his wife, Sharon. His wife, Sharon, she works for a local charity, Flying Start, and she asked me to come on board. She said, Ricky knows 1,000 people, but it wouldn't be fair because he hasn't got the knowledge of the local people in the town. So 10,000 people might watch him on a Saturday, but I wouldn't, of that 10,000, I might know 1,000 of them. So she just wanted people there at the fathers event on a Saturday and supporting the fathers who've gone through trauma, breakups, or in some cases couldn't get to see their kids, and they just need that legal and emotional support. So that's what I do one Saturday a month, couple of hours, and just to help the fathers, the young fathers. And the thing about that is, and no disrespect to our women, because the job doesn't pay well, it's all women in there who could work there part-time, because in a lot of cases have got a husband at home or a partner at home. So they're living off a wage and a half or 2 wages, whereby, and there's not many men in social services supporting the young children and young men and the young fathers. So when I went in, I made sure they had to include not only the fathers, but the uncles, the grandfathers, the foster fathers, and what have you. And they were politely surprised. And I says, well, it's all part of the lineage of the child. So if the dad is working or the mum's working, granddad, grandma looks after the kid anyway. So it was part of the men's group was setting up, and Sharon supported me and the rest of her staff, and just gave myself and my colleague Ashley. He's an academic. He works at the University of Bedfordshire, and he's working in the social sciences, and he does a lot of research. So the two of us together do that one on the last Saturday of every month, support the dads groups, the foster fathers, and
that's
all
really
the male members. Yeah, all the male
that's
members. So that's on a Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, I watch Luton Town. Sunday morning after church, I'll be going and supporting the Arsenal fan TVs. And then Sunday afternoons, I'm in the pub watching the games and catching up. So that's my weekend spoken for.
Okay.
And then Monday to Friday, I'm working.
Okay.
So,
Seafood Blaps, you got a question?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Selwyn? You good?
I'm good.
It's like I ain't seen you for a minute or two. You know what I'm saying? I missed you, man. I missed you, man.
I miss you too, bro.
It's only been 40 minutes, bro. Okay.
Listen, I'm more than glad to share my knowledge.
No problems. we are always looking for unity in our people. We had it after George Floyd. The whole world got kind of unified and behind the changing stuff happening. And then we got a recent one in Alabama with the black hat being thrown up and the white folding chairs being a symbol for unity now.
Right.
What would you do with this energy right now? How would you direct it?
People don't realize how much power they actually have. And these politicians, and I'm not a political man, I haven't got a political affiliation. My affiliations to the people, I don't care if you're African, Indian, Asian, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, whatever. I'm just here to support fathers with their children, mothers with their children, families, and whatever nationality, religion, or whatever comes along, I'll accept you. But if you're going to look at me and say, well, because of the color of my skin, I'm not worthy, you need educating. And a lot of it is propaganda. A lot of it is people getting the real news, the truth, and understanding it. I've stopped watching TV, to tell you the truth, so I wasn't even aware of that. So thank you for making me aware of that. I'll go and I'll Google it and find out about the black hat and the white chairs and what have you. But the most important thing is respect. Respect fellow man, fellow woman. Because we've all got a story. We're all here for one reason. Make some money, keep a roof over our head, and get 2-3 weeks holiday a year without stress. And I don't care whether you're from Italy, from St. Lucia, from Jamaica, from Poland, or Alaska. It doesn't matter. That's all we want. Some people want a bit more. Some people want a few more weeks holiday. Some want it in exotic places. Some want their kids to go to the best schools in the world. The best schools are you teaching yourself, because that's what education's about. The school curriculum will only take you so far. It will show you how to count. It'll say 1 and 1 equals 2. But it won't show you how to do the equation to be able to afford a house, and how to do the maths to say, right, if I get a job as a road sweeper, I'm going to be earning 20 grand a year. 20 grand a year in Luton, 4.5 times that gives me 90 grand. That's what I can get a mortgage on a house in Luton. Yeah. If I'm in London and I'm a road sweeper, I could be earning 40 grand a year. 4 times 4 is 160, plus half gives me numbers. Who's on the calculator? 240.
Yeah.
Yeah. 200,000. What can you buy in London for 200,000? Why are so many people renting when the affordability calculator shows that what you're paying in rent, you could be paying in mortgage? And the 25-year mortgage sounds like a murder sentence, but I've gone through it twice now. And I've lost, and I'm building myself back up. So that's the real maths. But I remember I was working in a school in London, and I explained that to one of the head of maths, and he went, Selwyn, that's a brilliant idea. And he showed the calculation, and he said, if you're earning 40 grand in London, you could buy a house up north on a mortgage, rent it out, have an income from it, and what you're saving on the mortgage, put that aside, and in 5 years' time, you can buy a property in London or buy another one up north.
So do you flip houses then? Have you flipped houses?
Yeah, I've been involved in flipping, land deals. I'm looking at development deals now, whereby you can buy a plot of land with planning for 10, 20 houses, and you get a builder, you find 25%. So there's different mathematical equations you could use. And that's the real truth. You know, stay with your brother, work with your brother, or work with your sister if you can get on. Yeah, and do that. That's where the real wealth is, because the first house I brought with a girlfriend, I was earning 20 grand. She was earning 20 grand. That's 40 grand. The house we brought was 30 grand. That house today is worth 300,000.
Okay,
Same
what, a
condition.
3-bedroom, yeah?
A 3-bedroom mid-terrace house, Coronation Street type house in Luton.
So
That
where
same
are
house
you
in
teaching
London.
this, Selwyn? Where are you teaching this, bro?
People come to me direct, and I work with them. But I'm more than glad to. Maybe we could do a Zoom Mandem chat whereby the people listening in, we could show them how it works.
Because since
slowly it's
COVID,
getting,
people have been doing a lot of Zoom chats, WhatsApp chats, all this kind of stuff, learning how to do the rent to rent and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I've got a friend who specialises in rent to rent. 2 sisters, they were guests at my birthday party last year, Nikki Taylor and Stephanie Taylor, and they're very successful on it.
Yeah,
so
you can go through some of the pitfalls and stuff.
Yeah, we could show you that. There are different ways of doing different deals, and it's really just understanding the numbers and understanding the tax and setting yourself up for it to work.
So how does the land deals kind of work? Give us a bit, elaborate on that process.
Land, a land deal could be something like coming up here today.
Quite difficult to buy land in England, isn't it?
No. That's a fallacy.
Okay.
If you know what you want, if you know where to look, you can. I've got one of my best friends. That's all he does. He buys and sells land and sits on it. He gets planning. When he gets the planning, that's what the real value is. To buy 100, if someone's got a 200-foot back garden in their house, they could put a granny annex in the back, subject to planning and where it is and the height of it. Okay, so it's like a shed. If you've got a semi-detached house with a garage on the side, you've got space there. You could build over that garage. If you've got access to your back garden from the other side, what's stopping you from looking at on Google Maps and deciding how to develop it? Because they're building no more land. They're building houses. And subject to the postcode will determine what the price of the land is. And the value you pay for it, let's use simple numbers. The land costs you 100,000, you need 25% deposit. Yeah, you buy that land and you go in with an architect, a planning consultant, and you say, right, what can we put on this land? Once you've looked at it and the planning consultant says, yes, we can do this, you take an option on that land. That option could cost you £1. That option could cost you £10,000. But you've got, that option gives you 5 years to know what to build. I can see people at home now be going on their phones and going on Google and saying land for sale, where have you? But that's only part of the story. It's getting the funding. And the funding comes from people like you and I, people who set up little savings clubs, but be careful. There are banks who specialize in land. So you could be, and I'm not discriminating the banks here, you could be a bank A, okay? Bank A, I've been saving my money with you for the last 10 years or since I left school. I want to buy this bit of land. You might be talking to the wrong bank. So the question you should ask the bank is, do you advise people on land buying and do you provide funding for buying land? That's the question you should ask. Not assume that that bank can give you money for land because it's a specialist market. Yeah. So what you then do, you just you look at that. I've got contacts that do land, do planning. I've worked for big companies. That's what they do. And as I said, one of my best friends from school, that's what he does. And sometimes land deals come up and I send them to him to look at. And I'm sure we could bring him along and he can give you some inside secrets as to how it works. But you've got to look at, if the land's 100,000, you need 25,000 to buy it. But before you buy it, you get the option to get the planning on it and build. Right now, Luton's got a glut of 1-bedroom houses. So if you're going to build anything, make sure it's a 2 or a 3 bedroom house or a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. So you can get 4 on that plot. If you're looking at a lot of the old offices around town or across the country, because people are shopping online, they're not Amazon are killing it. DPS and all the delivery companies are killing it because people are just sitting at home, picking what they want, they're getting a delivery. So those big shops and offices that you see, whether it be downtown or out of town, they're just empty. But the government has now brought out what they call permitted development, which allows you to convert that office to apartments.
Mm.
And if you can convert it to apartments, you can
See
rent
that
it
a lot
out.
in Luton. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And there's a lot of it. Right in front of the police station on
right in
Gospel
town,
Road, Stewart Street.
Mm.
Those old offices, the old council office has been converted to accommodation, 1-bedroom accommodation.
Yeah.
At the bottom of Castle Street there, just behind the Metro Bank.
Yep.
They used to be student accommodation and offices, both accommodation now. So the government, people want to be more independent now, live alone. So 1 and 2 bedroom houses are doing it, but Luton's got a glut of 1 bedrooms. So it might be easier to get a planning for a 2-bed or a 3-bed, because then you could have 2 people in there paying the mortgage.
So Selwyn, would you say it's a buyer's market or a seller's market?
If you've got the money, it's a buyer's market. By that I mean, I've been offered some property in Knightsbridge for sale. I've been asked to see if I've got anybody for it. I gave it to 3 people. 2 of them want it. So now there is a bidding war. Okay. It's 40% below the market price. But you're talking £12 million worth of property. So it's a specialist market. Now that property can come with tenants or without tenants. I've done the numbers. With tenants, if you don't need a mortgage, you could pay yourself $500,000 until we ride out this storm. You could pay yourself $500,000 a year in rental income because it's Knightsbridge, it's central London, you've got Kensington Park, you've got all the embassies, and you've got the tubes and the buses. So you don't need a car down there. So if you've got the money, it's a buyer's market. If you haven't got the money, then you need to find a solution. How do you get the money? Who can you partner up with? How can it work? How can you make it work? So the sellers, because if you've got to sell because the interest rate, you've been caught on the hop, you don't have a fixed rate mortgage, and as the clock ticks, your mortgage goes up every hour or every day, then you've got a headache. But the answer to that would be, is the place big enough to rent a room out? Can you go and stay somewhere else for a cheaper rent your place out and pay your mortgage because the rates are high?
Yeah, but when the rates are high, because it's no longer a fixed mortgage, wouldn't it be good to find another bank and another more?
Marvin, isn't a one size fits all. You could be in a 3-bedroom house, and you'll say, well, it's worth 300,000 in Luton. I'll turn around and say, yeah, it's worth 300,000. How much is your payments on the mortgage? Now I could look at it with my planning guy, and he'll say, we can make this 2 flats, a 1-bed and a 2-bed, and rather than get £1,000 a month, we can get £2,000 a month. And because you've got a garage in the back garden, we can create a granny annex there, and somebody could live there, subject to planning. So now your £1,000 a month mortgage that you might be struggling with, we've turned it around to bring in £2,500 a month. But you have to move.
That's it, and that's also if you've got the money to
sometimes it isn't about having the money.
Of that.
Yeah. But sometimes it's about having the money. It's knowing where to get the money and having a team that you can trust.
Yeah.
because that's what contacts are about. That's what making money's about, having the contacts. A lot of people look at this cryptocurrency. I personally don't know anything about it. I've got friends and family that are involved with it. I haven't got the time to sit down and study it and see whether or not. But to me, it's just like stocks and shares. But that's my opinion. You know, other people understand it. They've put money in. They're making money.
Well,
But
I messed around with crypto, and I've had a few beans out of there as well, innit?
Well,
Yeah,
and there
because
you go.
because look, I did buy a Bitcoin 2020, I think March 2020. That was at £7,200. I bought a whole Bitcoin. But I'm not saying this is what I got out of it, because I took some money off of it before this. But the next year, March, it was at 44,000.
Right. So
You
yeah,
understand?
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got quite a few cryptocurrencies still.
Yeah, and it works for some people, and you need time, and you need the money, and it's money that you got prepared to lose to do that. It's like the stocks and shares. There's another way of looking at stocks and shares. So my stocks and shares are property and giving people advice. That's what I see. That's what I do. That's what I understand. Because the other side of things is go with you're comfortable with, and that you understand. Too many people say, oh yeah, I'll jump into crypto, I've done this. There's a lot of people out there with stories, and they're not going to tell you, oh, well, I put 5,000, I put 10,000 and I lost.
Yeah, it didn't really work for me still.
Didn't work, yeah. And, you know, if you look at the man them around the table and ask them, you know, obviously off camera because it's personal financial information, but they'll tell you stories of people that have made and people who have lost. It's like property. It's like anything. Cars, gold, diamonds.
How much do you charge for your advice?
My advice is free. I'll charge as and when somebody comes on board and they say, right, Selwyn, I want to buy this house and it's 200,000. We'll charge 1%. And we charge what we call as a admin fee for doing the paperwork. The advice is free. You can not like my face and go and take it to somebody else. I'm going to treat you like I'll treat my own brother or sister or my best friend. I'm going to say, if I'm sitting in your shoes, Spence, this is what I would do based on the information you told me. And you and Marvin might be going for the same type of property in the same price range, but Marvin, I'd have to advise maybe different. You understand?
Yeah.
Because it's about who's around you, what do you want, what's your goal. Too many people. Go on, Marvin.
Sorry. What
1 minute, Bob. I'm gonna bring you in straight after Beans.
Yeah. So sorry, Bob. What would be the best? What would be what advice could you give to, like, you know, someone who's mid to late 40s that wants to acquire a property but doesn't really want to go through a 25-year mortgage? What would be the best route for that person? Because obviously if you're mid to late 40s, to get a 25-year mortgage, that's a big commitment. By the time that mortgage ends, are you in good health? Have you got any strength? Are you alive? You understand? So what would be the best route for someone wanting to
look at it is like this.
Yeah, go on.
Right. There's this expectation that the mortgage is only for 20 or 25 years. If I said to you, find me £2,000 a month for the next 20 years to pay a mortgage, would that be comfortable for you? As an example.
But well, I'd say that's a commitment, man, because like I said,
exactly.
If you're talking about for 25 years, yeah, maybe if you know the person who's in their mid 40s or, you know, late 40s, that would be comfortable for them up to a certain time. You know what I mean? Who says if you're gonna, you know, remain in good health, have strength to work, to carry on maintaining this throughout that duration? So
the reason I asked you that, Marvin, is it's fiction. With depending on which lender you're with, you can get a mortgage till you're 65. You can get a mortgage till you're 70, 75. You can actually get a mortgage till you're 85. So is the property you're buying, is it a buy to let or is it a buy to live in? Once we've established that, what's the size of the property? Can it be converted? Can you have a 3-bedroom house converted to 2 flats and rent it out? Can it be converted to what's known as a house of multiple occupation and rent that out? Yeah, because right now 1-bedders in Luton are going for anywhere between 750 and 1,000 a month, and that's the minimum. There are some I've seen for 1,300 a month, 1 and 2 bedroom flats. So if you've got a 3-bedroom house, I would say let's look at it, because as I said, if I'm talking to Spence, his house may be different layout to yours, and whether it's a terrace house or is it a semi with a garage, does it have a bit of a back garden? Okay, then I'm talking to 2 people about the same investment, but one has got more options than the other. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it isn't a one size fits all. Why people come to us is a bit like you're 6'6" and you need a suit. Yeah, you're not the average 5'8" to 6 foot man. You're 6'6", so you need a specialist cut of cloth to look at you, and that's what we do. We specialize. I've got a team of people around me, and consultants that I've worked with 20 years plus, and it's more a case of what is it you need. I'll give you an example. I was in Northampton a couple of weeks ago. Guy's got a shop. The mortgage on the shop is £1,000 a month, but he's got nobody in it. I've walked there, I've looked at him, and I said to him, "You're paying £1,000 a month. You've got nobody in there." He says, "Well, I want to do this." I goes, "Yeah, but you're going to have to take time off work. You need to get an architect in. You need to get the planning in." And I looked at the building across the road opposite him. The building across the road is 4 stories. So I says, in theory, you're actually, although it's costing you 1,000, it's actually costing you 3,000. And he said, "Why is that?" I goes, "Look at that building across the road. You can go up another 2 stories on your building.
Opportunity.
Okay? You can, yeah, because you've got the space above, and people don't see that as a little guidance. Yeah. Now, he turned around and said, "I could really do it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We can make it happen." So it's the case of I'll go back and see him next week, look at it with the architect. I says, "Yeah, it's going to cost you because it's a commercial transaction. The architect wants paying." I says, "And I'll process the paperwork. So you've got to give me some money on account, and your property that's worth 600,000 now will be worth 1.2 million. Because I'm looking at the opportunities. I've got the eye." Yeah. And that's not me being big-headed. It's just looking at a building from a different set of eyes. It's a bit like you're looking for a professional footballer, or you're looking for that special lady, and you need somebody around you that has that experience to say, "Well, have you looked at this and have you looked at that?" I'm giving you those options. Or that special lady's looking for the special man. This is what you've done in the past, because there was nobody to hold your hand and guide you and show you the best way forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, you did have a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
You're muted, Bob. Your
Bob,
mic's
you're
muted,
muted.
Bob.
You got to do that for Bob. Show him the ears.
Bob, your mic is muted. We can't hear you.
Gonna have to text him.
Is that better?
Oh, there you
hear me
go.
now?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes,
you.
Bob.
Yes, see what is really right, Selwyn. I think you may need to come back and do a special thing around finances and stuff like that, because a lot of it around finances. I know you got other attributes and things like that. One of the key things I want to ask, really, right? You just want to explore, really. There's always an issue about why we ain't got no building and such forth in the community. Yeah, I mean, let's look at like social, cultural economics. for a better term, really. It's not just about social. I know you do a lot of stuff charity, you know, in terms of, even when you do your promotions, a lot of it's to do feeding back into fly starts and various other things like that. But, you know, with your vision, with your expertise, you know, I don't know really about where people are making full use of the resources that are in the community in terms of expertise. But what my thinking is this, I just want to explore it with you and everybody with you, right? Like, say, for example, footballers, you know, they've got a lot of money coming in and stuff like that. Some of them may leave the game not really well prepared or whatever. But couldn't there be a funding, a benevolent fund or something that they could put back into the community, and that community could buy assets. The assets could be a building or a centre, you know, so that we actually have an economic base to build on. But I know it's all business that is about respect and trust in terms of that bit. But I'm just saying, has anybody ever approached you, you know, with a plan to say, Selwyn, how can we get some asset in, an organization, whatever that organization is, and get people to buy into it? You know, I mean, that seems like a model, an economic model, rather than just going to capping and counseling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, Bob. And in theory, that ship sailed maybe 20, 30 years ago when we stopped using partner amongst our community, to be fair. In that there are so many jokers, scammers, and for want of a better word, thieves out there, that the money is in the community, but we're not spending it with the community. I'll give you an example. I was part of a group of guys that used to put money aside. And I'm used to dealing with numbers. As I said earlier, there's a property for sale in Knightsbridge. It's worth 12 million. And I've got 2 people looking at it. Now, to me, 12 million is a lot of money. But if I said to the community, let's raise 300,000, yeah, and we can get a property for 1.2 million, they'll look at me and think I'm crazy. But that's all you need. 300,000, you get a property 1.2 million, 25% plus legal fees. But you need it'll be complex, because where's that money coming from? It might be coming from Mrs. Smith's savings account. It might come from Mr. Brown's first house that he bought for 20, 30,000 30 years ago. It's now worth 300,000. How many people are you going to need to bring that 300,000 to the table to buy that 1.2 million building? And what is your game plan for getting the money out of that property and paying the mortgage, the balance of the mortgage, which would be 900,000? Yeah. So when you're dealing with, whether it's small numbers or big numbers, people will fall out because Mrs. Brown's son is going to say, Mum, what do you want to do that for? Take that money out. We see it in our communities every year where somebody's passed away and they've left the house, and the brother's fighting the sister, who's fighting the dad, or fighting the cousin, and people, okay, and people, all of a sudden, 300,000 is a lot of money. 300,000 isn't much money if you don't know how to spend it. How many people in our community have passed away, and the family's inherited the house, and so-and-so's driving out in a 23 plate BMW or a Bentley or something like that. So we need to educate the community first. You have to remember that for a long time, our parents and our grandparents were sons and daughters of slaves. So illiteracy is high in our community. Although we still have a lot of people who are educated and knowledgeable, where is the education and the trust? If I said to you guys right now, all right, let's all put £1,000 in, right? There's 10 of us around the table. Everybody puts £1,000 in, and we're going to buy a £40,000 property up front, up north. And in a year's time, we could remortgage it, and we could pull our 10,000 out, and everybody can take their 1,000 back plus interest, or we can buy a second property. That's the conundrum. How many of you would be in a position to say, yeah, here's the 1,000 to do it, and you'll wait for a year or two down the road?
I'll do that.
Yeah, that's the move.
Yeah.
Well.
And we're not, and we're only talking £1,000. Now, to some people around the table, that's change. I can get that on a credit card. I've got X in the bank. So and so owes me money. Blah blah blah, and it could work. Now let's up the ante to 10,000. So 10 man round the table, 10,000 each. We got 100,000. We can now go and buy a property worth 400,000.
Yo, a man's plotting up outside your yard, Selwyn. A man's watching you 24 hours a day.
You want to come back, bring it back, come back on the show again, Selwyn.
Thank you. And that's what I'm saying.
Let's go into that, yeah.
But
come back with that.
One at a time.
I'm just trying to answer your question. On a practical point of view, we're not talking a 30 or 40 pound partner. We're talking £1,000, and you're not going to have access to for a year. We draw up an agreement and what have you. What rules are you breaking? What taxes are on that money? Suppose somebody loses a member of their family and they've got to find the money to go and fly maybe to Canada or the Caribbean. Yeah? But one moment, perhaps. That's what I'm talking about. So it's about education, it's about trust, and it's about having the same way some of us have dabbled in cryptocurrency, and you've sat and you've been patient because you've made that sole decision. Now it's a team decision.
Selwyn.
Yeah.
If you got 8 people, if you got 9 people that's willing to put in 1,000, I'll be the 10th one, you know. Or
you be the first.
Or maybe there's something we work on, knowing that I've got I've got my 1,000. If you would have 1,000, I don't know if anyone else would have 1,000 here, but could search for them out there and take that risk. You know, for people who have a few thousand, maybe to risk 1,000, they're more willing. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of people struggling out here. You know, they're finding it hard just even to maintain, you know, the family, the bills and all that, and ain't got no loose capital. You understand? So obviously they're not gonna do it, or if they're right on the breadline and have it, you know, brother.
But there are some, Marvin, there are some who have it though.
Yeah, there is.
Not everybody. It's not all about that. You know, there are some who have it. They're not all what you call it.
Yeah, well, it's about presenting the investment in a wholesome way that people get a full understanding, a belief in it. Obviously, the people who is initiating this, you know, have to be, and who's gonna be involved in it, have to be kind of people that people trust, isn't it? Because if there's any what people deem any dodgy characters, straight away they're gonna deem it dodgy, and they're not gonna want to put their put their 1,000. So you know, I'm saying I'm a person. I would put £1,000, and if you haven't got,
I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
Because there are parts of the country that you can still buy a house for 30, 40 grand.
Yes.
And people are paying £500, £600, £1,000 a month rent.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so you could either be postcode bound. So you could either go to Kensington, Knightsbridge, and buy a 1-bedroom flat for £500,000, or you can go to Hartlepool and buy a 1-bedroom flat for 25, 30 grand. Or you can go to Scotland across the border. And buy a cheap house.
You understand that principle of putting money in? People put money in the church all the time.
People do.
Yeah, so you know, money all the
next to the Queen, Bob, next to the Queen, next to the Queen and some insurance companies, the church is the richest landowner in the country.
You're telling me?
Yeah. I know that because I work for one of the insurance companies. And that was their standard introduction. You know, next to the Queen and the church, we're the biggest landowner in the country.
All right.
So it's about understanding A, numbers, B, people, and contracts. Because that contract has to be watertight, that everybody signs into it. And it's in plain English. And it will say something like, your £1,000 is in here for 1 year. Should you require it out before that, there's going to be a penalty. So your £1,000 now becomes 800.
Somebody else coming to take the spot. Yeah, like a partner approach. Yeah. Man, at least,
And we will look at, this is the property that we're going to buy. Yeah. And I've seen it happen. And people say, oh, well, my son said I should put the money somewhere else. I'll get back. Your money in the bank is dying. The money in the bank's dying quicker than our people who are going to hospital in the graveyard. You got £100 in the bank right now. What's the interest rate on your money?
It's next to nothing, isn't it?
Pound 50. That's your interest on your money for the year.
Joking.
There you go. If you walk the streets of Luton, you'll pick up £1.50 within a week. But there are people who are sitting with lumps and lumps of money. And for those of you at home, I'm not saying go and put your money into a property or something like that, but know your numbers. Know the people that you're investing with. Know that it's 100% safe. There's an element of risk in anything, be it property, be it crypto, be it cars. You know, someone's telling you, oh, this car is worth 25,000, we're selling it to you for 15. You go and take your 15 out of your account, you give it to them, next thing you know, the car needs an engine. The car's been stolen.
I was going to say, yeah, everything is
marriage is a risk.
Sorry? Everything's a risk, yeah.
But I mean, even if you put £1,000 into the house, then it doesn't stop there, doesn't it? The house may need doing up, it may need work doing.
So, and that's the next part of the contract. What kind of house are you going to buy? There's 10 of you with 1,000 each. The house is 40,000. 10,000 gives you 30,000 mortgage. Well, the minimum mortgage you could have is 35,000. So you could use 5,000 for the deposit in the company name and roll from there, or in the association name. And how do you set up for tax purposes? So everybody's got an equal share. In the event of something happening, who's the successor of that share? Is it a son? Is it a daughter? Is it a nephew? Is it a niece? Is it a charity? Is it somebody in the group? So those are all the complexities you've got, and that's just for £1,000. Because whether it's 1,000 or 100,000, okay, going to the big boys league or the big girls league, you need to look at it and ask yourself, what am I doing? Can I afford to put this money into this project for the next year?
Selwyn, manners and respect.
Yeah, man, give thanks.
I'm out of here, yeah, but there's a lot of knowledge on, you know, because we don't have a person who knows about the finance market, the charity, the sports. And Selwyn, you know, most places I go, it's like you're my brother. That's what, you know, we show up, you know, we have a spirit and things like that. So fantastic, you know, we can always share the love, you know.
Pleasure.
Respect everybody, yeah. One love.
It's no point me taking it to my grave with me, not sharing it with you guys, you know.
True.
Somebody out there's going to take a chance. Somebody out there's going to take a risk.
Yeah, P. Ank sends a message saying, greetings, family. I've been doing AI trading for over a year now, and it's worked very well for me. Oh, that's good, brother. That's good.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Selwyn,
That's the next,
thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure sharing it with you guys.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It, man, definitely.
Yeah.
So when is your event again? Because, you know, it's a charity
16th of September.
Yeah, because, you know, you do support charity. Yeah. I'll be there, bro.
Looking forward to seeing you guys there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You can try it up on here still. When is it? September the what?
16th.
Yeah,
Saturday, September the 16th.
I've put it up already on the Man Them Chat WhatsApp group, innit?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Respect, Selwyn. Thanks
yeah.
for coming, brother.
Respect,
Thanks,
Selwyn.
sis. Thank you, Selwyn.
Guys.
Pleasure. Thank you, gents. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Nice one.
Bless, bro.